I have been thinking a lot about leverage in business. I'm really starting to fall in love with this word, and I really see why Alex Hormozy is so fascinated. And one of his favorite quotes is by this, I forgot who it was, but if you give me a lever long enough, I can move the world with it. Something like that, right? But excuse me, I've been thinking a lot about oh my god, someone save me. I've been thinking a lot about business and leverage specifically, and I can't stop thinking about it. Like, why did someone like Alex Limousine choose private equity, right, as his main vehicle? Because, like, when I look at him, I don't see a traditional investor at all. Alex is completely different. And I don't know a lot of investors, but just like when I was growing up, I would try to like dabble into like a business book here and there, and I never really saw private equity as people that were like coaches for businesses, right? So when I look at Alex, I see something different entirely. I see someone who might be, in my opinion, and because I say this all the time to my friend, I'm like, he's the world's greatest client success manager, and he just might be the world's most known client success manager, right? But he's someone who can literally walk into a business, and this is also what I'm realizing as well is like this is not exclusive to Alex Hormozy, but he can walk into a business, look at the data, and diagnose exactly what's broken. Now, Alex is just receiving a lot of attention because he does it for such a high leverage position, like a business, right? But you can have like people who study flowers or plants, right? You can be like, oh, okay, so it's probably not getting enough sunlight. You can have this for doctors, right? We're like, okay, the inflammation, okay, it started yesterday, and the rash is it like is it itchy or is it bubbly? Oh, it's okay, and then you probably need this cream, right? Like it's just pattern recognition. So it's like at the end of the day, if we're going to be living in a world of pattern recognition, why not recognize patterns that pay the most? You know what I'm saying? Like in my right, you're gonna be recognizing. Oh, I want to do what I love, bro. Alex is. I was gonna be like billions, gajillions of dollars. He doesn't. He It eventually he will. So it's a. It's a long curve, but anyways, back to the point of the video, which is he can diagnose what's broken by just looking at the data, right? You know, like is it the offer? Is it pricing? Is it sales? Is it fulfillment? Right? Like he's literally someone who can walk into a business, look at the data, and literally diagnose that without seeing anything else. He can just look at the data. So that really it caused me to start asking a deeper question, which is like, is private equity actually the highest leverage position that you can hold in business, right? Because when you study someone like Alex Hormozi, you start to notice that he's not just good at building businesses, he's good at diagnosing businesses. And that comes from like his experience in business and then pattern recognition through the repeated repetitions. Like he can look at a company's numbers and very quickly, boom, this is the constraint. Offer's not strong enough, sales process is broken, pricing's wrong, fulfillment's not producing results, it can't, right? And then this is what separates Alex, and this is what I'm struggling with right now. Most people try to solve everything at once, and that's definitely what I'm trying to do. But the highest level operators, they know something different. They know that there is one constraint that matters more than the rest, right? Because a business, if it's not at a billion, even if it's not at a million, there's probably like 10 constraints, right? But Alex, from experience, he just knows which one to focus on. So, but this is why private equity gets interesting, though. Most entrepreneurs they apply their skill set to one business, right? And it's so funny. It's so funny the fucking journey like I'm going on. I remember I was in high school and I was fucking washing dishes at a diner, and then washing dishes at a restaurant, and then got into bagging groceries. And I was like, man, I'm fucking like 16, 17, 18. And I'm like, man, I'm working twice as hard as these motherfuckers. Like, and they're getting paid more than me because they've been here longer than me. Like, that makes no fucking sense. Like, dude, I can't. This is broken in my opinion. Like, I am literally incentivized to not perform. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is fucked up. So I got into sales, right? I met rest in peace to the guy. God, I'm Brad. Fuck, what's his name? Brad. Is it Brad? I was gonna say Brad Lee. Donnie Brown. Donnie Brown was an agent. Southern Homes and Land Realty. Brad, he's the broker of it. He passed, and Donnie Brown. I would go door knocking with Donnie Brown, and I would go door knocking with Lynn Dunn. They were respectfully, guys. They were older. Okay, I was a young kid. I was paying Brian Casella for coaching, and he's like, "Man, go hit the doors, go cold call." And I remember showing up to the office. I actually have a video of this. It's like over a decade ago. I'm 30 now. It's over a decade ago, and we didn't have automatic dialers. We didn't have power dialers like we do today, like Mojo Power Dialer, and you can just buy data. You can just go on the internet and buy leads. We didn't have that, so I grabbed the office phone, and I'm going through the phone book, and it was so funny. I showed up. I got my license. So I met Brad. He was selling my mom a property. He's like, "You should get into real estate." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, man, it's sales. You can make whatever you want, you know?" And oh man. And I got my license 21 days later. And for people in real estate, they know that's quick as fuck because that is the fastest legal timeline available inside of the state of Georgia. At least it was 10 years ago to get your license. So it was like 8 hours a day for 2 weeks and a day. And it was so funny. I was in Villa Rica at the time. And oh man. And I was driving 3 hours one way, so 6 hours. So I was there for 8 hours, driving for 6 hours to get my real estate license. And I was in Villa Rica, and I was driving Alpharetta, and it's like, people, oh, that's not 3 hours. It is when there's traffic. It is when you're in rush hour traffic inside of fucking Atlanta. That shit's no joke. So I was literally going from West Georgia to fucking Alpharetta, which was on the right side of Atlanta. So if this is Atlanta, I'm fucking over here and I'm driving to the other side of the city, right? And Ennis Antoine and Chip Lee, it's your birthday. It's your birthday. People who got licensed in Atlanta, you know what I'm saying right now. You know what I'm saying right now. And he told me to get my license, so I went and got my license, and I was so confused. Like, I wasn't sure like what I wanted to do. If I wanted to like be like, I was super stuck on like being an ER doctor. What's up, brother? Being like an ER doctor and something like that. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And I forgot if I was taking classes at I was starting off at Georgia Perimeter, and I got accepted into a transfer program into tech. I started off as computer science and then got into computer engineering, and ended up dropping out. I had a friend who was doing mechanical engineering, had another friend who was doing civil engineering, and we would just like sneak into classes and yeah, and just learn the curriculum and whatnot and fail tests. Like it was so hard. It was so hard. It was not a hard decision to drop out. And man, and gosh, so much just grit was put in between where I am now to where I was then. Like, I mean, I was in a 5-piece suit with Chad Boyle, door knocking in Atlanta summer. In Atlanta, 5-piece suit in the summer. It's fucking, for people who don't know Atlanta, it's hilly. That summer bitch is hilly, man. Okay, let me tell you what. And yeah, so he told me to go get my license, and I was going through the phone book. I'm cold calling. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do, what to say. I'm calling dentist office, tire shops, like, and I on day it was like day 4. I think I got like to like the D's at this point. Called somebody. He had a couple of expired listings, and I was freaking out. I was like, Brad, I got business, man. Because I showed up. He's like, all right, have fun. And I was like, what? Like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I have no idea what to do, you know? And man, I was so nervous. I would get in a suit and tie, and I would just like sit down and look outside for like 8 hours because I was so nervous. I was so scared to go door knocking. Like I was like, I gotta quit. I gotta go to school. I gotta go get a job. I gotta do something. Like I can't. And I think I did that for like 2, 3 weeks. And my mom would come home, and because I moved out and moved back because I wanted some help. And oh, how was today? And I was like, great. I went door knocking, crushed it, got some people, who want to do business later on. She's like, oh, that's great, honey, or whatever. And it was a lie. I didn't do it. I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified. I was so scared and terrified. I mean, I got in a suit and then I just tortured myself for 8 hours. And then I finally did it, and I was terrified doing it. Like that feeling like didn't go away, and I was praying I would have paid any amount of money, or I would have done anything to trade that feeling away, because it just reminded me a lot of bad stuff. So, because feeling that way before, but so I God, I forgot where I was going with it. Oh, the pay. So sales. So I got into sales because I was like, man, like I can't be working twice as hard as everybody else. And we just started hitting doors, man. Just started door knocking like motherfuckers. Yeah, I'm like, Donnie, come on. I'm like, Lynn, come on. Because I didn't want to be alone, man. It sucked being out there knocking on doors, and you know, uh, I didn't know what I was doing, but I did anyways. And I did that for like 12 years. I was in sales for about 12 years, and that epiphany that I had from going from an hourly job to sales where it was commissioned, and then eventually reaching a point in sales to where it felt like I was spending all the time I could, to where, it's such bullshit when people say, oh, earning potential is unlimited. And it's like, it's not, because your time is limited. If your earning potential is tied to the time, right? Sure, you're not being paid hourly, you're being paid, based off of skill, but you still have time, right? Where inside of labor, it doesn't matter how skilled you were, you got paid for that hour of time, right? And then through a long enough time horizon, you maybe got a pay bump, right? But it just wasn't it very quickly connected in my brain that I could not do that. That was torture to me. So I got into sales to where that torture alleviated, right? It was like, oh, like, I'm working more than you, I'm working harder than you, I'm building more skill than you, and I'm getting paid more than you. And that made like a lot more sense in my brain, and was a lot less soul killing for me. And then you get far enough into sales to where you realize that, okay, your skill will allow you to make more per hour, but then eventually you only have so many hours in a day, right? So to kind of wrap this back into the video, it's just like, I feel like I'm starting to like, that's starting to click, and it's just like, okay, sales is no longer the vehicle, now it's my business, right? And then I can eventually see that I will eventually reach a point in my business to where it's like, hey, now I need to go help 10 businesses, right? Anyways, back to the video. So most entrepreneurs apply their skills to one business, right? They build it, they scale it, they grow it. Private equity allows you to apply those same skills to dozens of businesses. And for me, why this makes so much sense is because early in sales, I was never really good early off, and I still don't feel like I'm really good at it. I know people who will say otherwise, but I don't think they know what I know about me. I even let them know, and they're like, "Nope, you're still good." And I'm like, "I don't feel that way." Is I started training salespeople very early into my career, not based off of skill, but based off ability to do things that no one else was willing to do that produced income, right? Door knocking, cold calling, appointments, objection handling. Like that was like my strength in sales. It wasn't like I was more skilled than everybody and that's why I was training you. It was I was willing to do what you weren't willing to do and that's why I was training you, right? And this started very early, right? People wanted to learn how to cold call. They heard me cold. I was loud. I was I was not aware of how loud I was. The whole office would hear me calling. They're like, dude, shut the fuck up. I will go buy you an office if you can get the fuck out of here. Like, we can hear, like, it got annoying to them, right? Side story. That expired listing I got from the phone book, it was the associate broker's expired listing. I ended up leaving that company because she was a bitch. And she was like, you can't take my business. And I didn't know at the time. I was brand new, very young, like late teens, early 20s. And she got mad and started cussing me out. Fuck you, white lady who was driving a Lexus at Southern Homes and Land Realty, and you were the associate broker. Fuck you, because you treated me like you should not have treated me that way at all. I was young. I didn't know. Now I know better. Fuck you. I was 10 times the agent that you were and ever would be and ever will be. Because I would never, as an associate broker, ever talk to a brand new agent like that, especially someone in their late teens, early 20s. You were like in your mid fucking 40s, driving a fucking Lexus. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck you, go to hell. So, side note, but so I started training agents, and teaching them how to door knock, teaching them how to cold call, leading objection handling, things, and then eventually got offered like productivity coaching positions, team lead, fast track to team lead, and I would just for free because I just love doing it. I'd be like, hey, I'm going to train these agents, So I would just take these agents. They would come into the office in the auditorium where they would teach classes, right? I would be like, hey, what time's class? They'd be like, oh, like 9 to 10. I'd be like, okay, cool. Is it free from 8 to 9? Yeah. Boom, 20 agents in there, 8 to 9. I'm not getting paid to do this. No one told me to do this. I was like, yay. Anyone who wants to learn how to cold call, I'm going to teach you, right? Young 20s, fucking teaching people how to cold call, right? Taught girlfriends that, were in real estate, right, that I had, how to cold call, how to door knock, right? They would get listings, they would get business, right? And it was just like, whoa, like, holy shit, like, this is amazing, whoa. And then ended up building my own real estate team, which crashed and burned, right? And then it, like, virtually, then I moved into virtual business and started training like 100, 200 agents on Zoom, right? How to use softwares, how to cold call, how to film, record this voicemail, right? So that when the call hammer hits, call hammer is like on a triple line dialer, when you're calling and one person picks up and then the other two pick up while you're on the phone with this person, they have to hear something. And they're like, hey, this is Paul with, I'm on the phone. And it's like, no, dude, you can't say that. You need to make it fabricated so they think it's you. Because if they know it's an automated message, they're never going to pick up your call again. So I'd be like, hey, I've learned this the hard way. Like, record the message like, hey, this is Paul with, oh, what? Oh, hello? Can you hear me? I'm getting static on your line. And then we would listen to the recording and they'd be like, yeah, can you hear me? Hello? And then you would call them back and they'd be like, hey, can you hear me now? And it's just like, bro, like, I just learned that shit from eating shit. And then I would give that to 200 agents and they'd be like, yo, what the fuck? There are literally agents that hit me up to this day that I trained years ago. They're like, dude, I made $800,000 in take-home income because of the training you gave me. Cold calling, door knocking, hitting the phones, these scripts, this, that, right? I ended up like, it was insane, like the shit I was doing for free, man. I never got paid for any of it, bro. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, all these other agents are crushing and I'm not. And I was just taking way better care of them than I was taking care of me, you know? And it's awesome to hear that from agents. It really is. I'm not bitter about it anymore. I used to be extremely bitter about it because I'd be like, dude, I helped y'all. Y'all aren't helping me. But it's just like, I would never let anybody know that I was struggling and shit like that, you know? So, but to this day, like, dude, I just brought my 15th investment property from the amount of money I made. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Almost making $1 million a year in take home income because, like, bro, what? You know? And they were paying coaches that were 40, 50 years old who closed way more business than I did. And it's just like, what the fuck? So it's just like, it helps me connect this in my mind, you know? And it's so funny, dude. It's so funny because I eventually was like, these skills will never take me anywhere. I truly believe that. But I just loved it so much. Like, people were scared of cold calling. Dude, I cannot tell you how much I loved cold calling. It was a joke to me. It was so much. You couldn't see me, you couldn't hear me. I could hide from all of my fears of door knocking. Like, bro, like I could like call you on a fake number. So if you cussed me out, I could cuss your ass out back and you couldn't complain because it was a fake number. Like, dog, it was insane, dude. It was insane. The shit I would do. I would start code switching and it got to the point where I became unconscious. I started talking to Oriental people, like Asian people. And by the end of the phone call, I sounded like an Asian person to my office and I wasn't even aware of it. And I would just like become you. And we would just get into such deep aligned rapport. Like, oh my God, I remember as soon as I left this one team, right? Because the whole office knew me. Whole office knew me. I mean, fucking, I started getting a name as like the cold call king, right? As soon as I left the team, bang, offers. Offers, 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 offers. Hey, come cold call. Hey, I was meeting with the top teams in the fucking region. They're like, hey, come work for us, come work for us. Dude, they pay ass. They pay fucking ass. So I'm like, yo, fuck this. Dude, I was getting paid like $2,000 a month, like $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. It was awesome. I was with like the team I was on. I'm not gonna mention their name. I'm not gonna mention the broker's name, but like, it was like the Alex Hormozi of real estate. You know, it was like the Harvard of real estate. So we didn't get paid at all in pay. We got paid in what we were learning, you know. And this guy helped me buy my first property. I bought my first house literally. I think we closed on it literally on my 21st birthday. It was insane, insane. So you know, and I house hacked it. Lived in the living room, rented out the master and guest, used the money to renovate the bathrooms. Shout out Uncle John, right? He ordered a custom what's it called? The cabinets and the countertop and the sink and shit like that for a master bathroom. It was an 800 square foot condo, so it was tiny, right? 700, 800 square feet, 3 people, master bedroom, guest bedroom, and then I was living in the living room in Atlanta. Tiny, but it was dope. I got paid to buy the property because the fucking owner, what the fuck was she thinking? We did amendment to address concerns. Oh, this is why. She was a fucking for sale by owner. Get a fucking real estate agent, everybody. This person ended up paying me to buy their property. I made money buying real estate. Amendment to address concerns. There were all these things wrong. And I'm like, yo, I'm not buying this after the inspection unless you do, right? It's called an ATAC, amendment to address concerns. Unless you fix this, 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 and this. And we're like 2 weeks out from closing. And I'm like, yo, it's going to take you way longer than 2 weeks to fix this shit. We can't close now. And she's like, what the fuck? We have to close. And I'm like, okay, let me tally this shit up and how much it's going to fucking cost me to fix all this shit because you didn't fucking fix it. It was like almost $10,000. So I got a check for almost $10,000, which covered my fucking down payment because it was owner occupied, right? So non-owner occupied, you have to put like 20% down. Owner occupied, I qualify for first time home buyer FHA loan. I put like 3.5% down. on like $100,000, $125,000, $150,000 property, I remember. And then fucking moved in, and then I was making like $400 a month from living there because I was renting it out. So I was just taking all this money, and it's so funny. I didn't even spend the money to fucking fix the shit at first. I was like, fuck, I'm not fixing that shit up. Those are not going to allow me to increase rent, right? So the way Alex looks at a business is like these constraints, right? I was looking at like, okay, I have all this money now to fix this property. I'm not going to fix that shit. That's not going to allow me to charge more rent, right? Alex Hormozi looks at businesses the same way. Not because he was fucking born with this ability. Not because I was born with that fucking ability. You learn, right? So where the fuck was I going with that, dog? This is just value bombs, dog. Shit. So, COVID hit later, right? Fucking property went up $100,000. Bang, baby. Shit was crazy. So where the fuck was I going with that? I don't remember. But, oh yeah. So it makes sense now because it's like, okay, I'm going to do this for my business, but then eventually I'm going to get so good at it that I can just go help like 20 other businesses. And there's nothing more that I would love to do than that because I love doing it in sales. I love doing it with real estate agents. I love doing it with people trying to enlighten themselves, right? Because I did that as well, where I ended up creating my own business, turned that into like AI, right? Turned Peter Crone into like AI, and then eventually now it's like Jiddu Krishnamurti because that's who Peter Crone learned from. But it was like, hey, I'm gonna have this AI because I want to learn what Peter's doing. And if I can get AI to do it, then that means I can just consciously figure out what AI is doing, and then I can take that and replicate that and become the world's best coach to help people become enlightened, to help them relieve themselves from their suffering, right? Started off free and did that for free for I don't even know how, God knows how long, 6 months, 9 months, and then it turned paid, right? I don't even remember how long I was doing that for free for. And it's just like, oh yeah, man, looking back on it when I was cold calling or door knocking, I was like, dude, this isn't going to take me anywhere. It's not going to take me anywhere. But looking back on it, and I was so depressed about this, guys. I thought I was a deadbeat. I thought I was stuck. Like, it's just now starting to make sense, right? But I just loved cold calling so much, man. I just had such a blast. I could call someone that no one else could call because they would get hung up on, they would get cussed out. And I was just that I was not taught, right? And I really think that just came from my childhood was like, how do I entertain myself from what's happening right now? Because what's happening sucks. So when they got on the phone, I didn't notice it at the time, but now I notice it's a pattern interrupt. So it's not even a gift. Like you can be taught what I was not taught. You could be taught that, right? But it was just a pattern interrupt. People were not talking to on cold calls 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the way I was talking to people. You know what I'm saying? So I even remember coming on the team, the new guys would come on the team and I would train them. And then I was really into pickup at the time, right? So it's like IODs, indications of disinterest, IOIs, indications of interest, and then using that on the phones. And I was literally using that language and like, right? False time constraints, right? Because, oh my God, I remember his name. He ended up starting his own wholesaling. I hit him up and he was like, nah. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, fuck you. I fucking helped you like keep your job and get good on this team, dude. Like, and I'm reaching out to you saying I'll pay you and you won't even hit me up. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on there that I didn't know about it. I know your name. I remember you, but fuck you for that. You know, that's fucked up. You could have told me what was going on and be like, sorry, bro, I'm going through like a lawsuit because I did end up finding out that he was going through a lawsuit. He was getting sued. But it's like, dude, you could have communicated that or some shit like that. But he kept getting hung up on, right? Because his first question wasn't landing. So I was like, bro, I learned this in pickup, like false time constraints, right? Like as soon as you approach a woman, it's like they want to know, like, how long are you going to be here for? And not just women, just like anybody. When you're knocking on the doors, that homeowner wants to know, what the fuck do you want and how long are you going to fucking be in my face for? Same thing on the phones, bro. So it's just like, I taught him that. And he's like, dude, that helped. And then he started setting appointments and started closing deals. And it's just like, you're welcome, brother. You know, it's like none of this shit made sense. I did not know this was going to align the way this was going to align. I had no idea. I had no fucking idea. I just was like, yo, I was interested in behavior and social dynamics and like how like decisions and agents of change. Like how do you get someone to say yes and like persuasion and like and shit like that, right? Like I was just fascinated by that stuff. I remember, man, I was going to this school in Florida, this junior senior high, and I remember it was like a summer program or whatever to get accepted into this. I don't even remember, but it wasn't like normal school yet. It was like summer school or something like that. And I started talking to this group, and I was like, I had everyone's attention, and I remember so vividly, like in the moment. I don't know why I thought this at all. I was like, if I walk away right now, will they all follow me? And I just did it. I just, I literally just fucking did. I was like, fuck it, let me try it. Like I'm just having this thought. I'm talking to everybody. I just stopped talking and walk away, and they all follow. Like, if you've ever seen like a school of fish move, that literally what. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, and I just fascinated by it. I was just so fascinated by it. So fascinated by that shit. Oh my god, so fascinated. But um, so I think it's maybe because like I don't know, maybe because like I don't know. I was gonna say maybe because like I'm autistic or something like that, or have Asperger's. I don't know. ADHD, which I don't believe in, by the way. I was diagnosed with, but I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. That is irrelevant. Anyways, back to the fucking video. So it's all one. It's all coming back. Like it's all starting to make sense looking forward. Like, oh, all of that looking back on now makes a lot of sense moving forward. But when I was living it, dude, it felt really hopeless. Like it felt like there was no growth potential, like at all. Like it was just door knocking and cold calling, you know? Because I was so scared to go start my own thing. So I was like, I'm just gonna door knock and cold call for a team forever, and I'm gonna get paid shit. And like it just, I was hopeless, man. But I loved it, and I eventually, that confidence I got from cold calling, I eventually got that on the doors. And dude, I was knocking on like $5-10 million homes. Like I remember, God, this property. Oh my God, because it's like, okay, if I can maximize my skill to a certain point of diminishing returns, like what else can I increase? And it's like, well, if I'm getting paid commission, it's like I can stop selling homes that are $300,000 and go sell a home that's $5 million, $10 million. So we would just go target these insane neighborhoods, and people were already not wanting to door knock with me at $300,000 homes. They were already nerve wrecked from that. I'd be like, fuck it, dog. I'm gonna go knock on these doors, these $10 million doors. I remember, dude, it was insane because you can't even, some properties you can't even get into, right? These gates were open, and dog, when I tell you there were like 30 fucking people on the premise, like this dude's carrying a bush, this dude's got a tree, this dude's got a shovel, this dude's got a barrel, this lady has a vacuum. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is happening right now, dude? Like, is this dude hosting a party? I had no fucking idea. And I was like, I can't look like I'm not supposed to be here because then I'm gonna get kicked off the property. Like, I feel like those clientele, they can snoop that shit out. So, and it was so insane, dude. The fucking driveway was like grass with like these two fucking like super beautiful. I don't know if it was stone or brick or concrete, like really well designed concrete. And it just went down this fucking driveway. So that way the car driving isn't like fucking up the grass. And it eventually wraps around, and there are these huge arching doors, like it's split in the middle. And they had these huge, like medieval rings. They weren't medieval themed, but they were just like this boom, boom, boom. And that's literally how it would hit because it was such a deep doorway that even from like the threshold of the door, right, it had to be like at least 20 feet. So, like, the door, like the threshold to where you wouldn't be rained on would start here, but then the doors were like at least recessed, like at least 20, 30 feet. So you're just boom, boom, and it's just echoing in this threshold. And I'm like, dude, no one ended up answering. So I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna start walking around the property and let me look for someone who's not carrying something. That's gotta be the fucking owner. You know what I'm saying? And I think I ended up asking somebody, and the owner like wasn't there or whatever. And I was like, fuck it, went and knocked on another door. But Just shit like that, man. That's a quality I've always had because I've always felt so restrained by my own fear, but I just keep pushing past the fear to find the same level of restraint just at a different level. Does that make sense? So like I was terrified a million out of 10 to knock on $100,000 property, right? A million out of 10. And then that was like, okay, I'm not going to die. Still very terrified, but I'm not going to die. I'm no longer at my limit of fear, right? It was now just like, if it was 10 million out of 10, now it's a million out of 10. So I'm like, let me go lock on like $150,000 property now. Still, and then it would reset. It would go from 10 million out of 10, and then I would eventually get used to it and be a million out of 10. I would never not be afraid, usually. On the phones, yes, I eventually reached the point where, because I could just hide, I could just hang up on you, I could escape, right? So there still might be some nervousness. Like I would call, I remember the first time, I think I called like Ken Nugent, um, this like super famous lawyer in Atlanta, and he had like a $3 million condo. Oh, I remember calling Hines Ward, and the team. Oh my god, it was so funny. I remember it was dialing, and I would prep like because on a cold call you can't really study so much, like because you're pumping out dials. So we would click on the house, right? And it would pop up. And I'm like, wow, this dude's a big fan of the Steelers, right? He's got a shit ton of Steeler memorabilia. Massive property. I think it was like $25 million. And, you know, that was my first time calling that. And I felt a little bit of fear, but I was like, yo, I got this shit. Like I'm slick, like with my words, right? Not good, not skilled, but just slick, right? It wouldn't never really lead to anything, just slick enough, right? To where I could kind of keep somebody on the phone. So, not good at closing, but good at keeping you on the phone, which you need to get to closing. But I never really learned that, right? At least at that team. And after, I was like, yeah, huh? Guys, check out this property. You know, big fan of Steelers. And I remember his name. He came over and he was like, dude, because we would skip trace it and find your name and shit like that. He's like, dude, you know who you just called? Like, I have no idea. He's like, dude, you just called one of the greatest, like, I don't know if he was a safety or something like that, of the Pittsburgh Steelers ever, bro. Like an absolute legend. I'm like, what? And I think that really helped not knowing, because I think if I knew that, I think I would have been way more nervous. But crazy shit. So, anyways, to get back on track with the video, right? Private equity is going to allow you the same skills, like once you learn how to grow your own business, to help other people grow their business, right? And I love Alex Hormozi because he really breaks things down to such a scientific level to where it's very leading indicator. Like there's only 4 channels of outreach, right? Like you see how narrowed down it is to where there's no ambiguity. That's why that is the most attractive trait that I love about Alex, right? So instead of building one company, you can improve many, right? And if you're really good at identifying the constraints, the leverage becomes massive, because a small improvement in the right place can unlock millions in value. So think about, the levels of leverage in business, right? Level 1 is labor, right? You're trading time for money. And then level 2 is skills, right? Sales, marketing, operations, right? You're no longer trading time for money, you're trading time for the outcome, right? And then level 3 is systems, right? You build something that runs without you, right? And that's the phase. Like in my teens, I was, very quickly disgusted by level 1, right? Trading time for money. So labor, left that shit and got into sales ASAP, where level 2 is skills, right? So trading time for outcome, right? And now what I'm getting into is level 3, which is systems, like building something that can run without me. And even though that's not really where I'm at in terms of like operationally, I'm at floor 1 of that building, because I'm understanding on how to build the systems so that I can tell people what to do so that they can have the best outcome, right? So, and then once I raise through this, I'll eventually learn how to build systems so that it can run without me, right? But what I'm realizing with private equity is that, because that's a business, right? Building something that runs without you, right? That's an actual business. Until you actually have systems, like a lot of people run businesses, but they're just level 1 and level 2. They actually don't have level 3 inside of their business, because if they left, so would the business. The business would leave with them, right? So you don't actually have a business until something can run without you. So systems, right? Um, so that's like input delegation, right? Because you're putting in inputs, and then if you leave, the inputs leave with you. So if the business is input based and you're the only one putting in the inputs, you don't have a business. So until you can build systems that teach other people to put in the inputs that you're putting in, you do not have a business. So, and then you have a level even above that, right? Which is private equity. So capital allocation plus operational improvement. You're taking a business that already exists and you unlock what's, the value that's trapped inside them, and that's just an entirely different game. And I'm super excited. Like I told Phil before I made this video, I'm like, hey, I can definitely see private equity in my future. That's a possibility. Because I don't really know where I'm gonna go, if it's gonna be into the enlightenment work, and then I become like the Alex Hormozi of enlightenment work, where I really define like the inputs and the channels and really how to like achieve that, right? But for someone like Alex Hormozi, the private equity really makes perfect sense, because his real skill isn't just entrepreneurship. His real skill is pattern recognition across businesses that he has from his experience as an entrepreneur, right? He's seen thousands of companies, thousands of offers, thousands of sales processes. So when he looks at a company, he can immediately see what most people miss, right? And when you combine that ability with capital and ownership, the leverage becomes enormous, right? So I'm like, what's even higher leverage than private equity, right? Like I'm trying to answer that, right? So is private equity the highest leverage position in business? Maybe. I'm not sure, right? But what I figured out is that, the real insight is deeper than that. The highest level leverage skill might not be building businesses, it might be diagnosing and improving them. Because once you can do that, you're no longer limited to one company. You can unlock value across many. So